A bet?
Unless, of course, you're too heartbroken.
Just name the terms.
All right, simple. I'll pick the girl. And you got 6 weeks to turn her into the prom queen.
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Matt and I'm here with Andrew. Today we're going to be talking about She's All That, the pinnacle of late 90s teen movies, and how the transformation was never about glasses and a hair tie. So grab your popcorn and Reese's Pieces and let's break it down on the Post Credit Podcast.
It's played in probably quite a few of these 90s. What do we decide to call them again?
I just say 90s teen movies, man.
90s teen movies. Yeah. I know I asked you that like every single time, or like last two episodes.
I know. I was re-listening our Can't Hardly Wait episode, and I'm like, man,
like
we're making a really big deal out of what to call these things, but it's just 90s teen movies.
I know, but it's in a special genre, you know, because I mean the ones from the 80s are different from the ones, you know, in the 90s.
Right.
To a point. But if you see a lot of those, they're kind of a lot of, you know, musical numbers and stuff in the movies. They did that in the 80s too.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think we had a huge faux pas during our last episode because you had asked me who, you know, we talked about who's the king of teen movies. We talked about maybe Freddie Prinze Jr. Then we talked about the Queen, and I'm like, I'm sorry. You know, I was just thinking about that generation and Can't Hardly Wait. Obviously, the queen of teen movies is Molly Ringwald. Okay, I mean, she had at least 3 major movies in the, and I think that's the most, because remember we talked about each movie has like their own princess, right?
Right.
Or whatever, so it's hard to nail down one. But she was in 16 Candles, she was in Pretty in Pink, she was in Breakfast Club, and...
Right, but what we're talking about now is, you know, 90s.
Right.
So
but you were kind of asking me what the main king of teen movies and main, you know, queen was, and I'd say out of all the generations, you know, Freddie Prinze Jr. is up there, at least in the rankings for you know, king of teen movies or whatever, and I'd say Molly Ringwald is definitely probably, because I mean I can't think of any other person that had teen movies like, you know, like she did, nailed down.
Yeah.
You know, John Cusack, what did he have?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He just had that one movie, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. He was in Stand By Me, but
yeah,
I don't think he was a teenager at that. I don't know.
There's a lot of like big time actors that were in that. Stand By Me.
Yeah.
You know, you had
Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. He was a fat guy in that one.
No, that was Jerry O'Connell.
Oh, Jerry O'Connell was that?
Yeah, he was the fat kid.
Oh, yeah.
Will Wheaton was the main kid.
Yes,
and River Phoenix was his best friend.
That's right.
He got like stabbed in a McDonald's years later. That's what that character happened to that character.
Yeah.
That is definitely a Stephen King thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, just he has a lot of like that boyhood friendship. You know, you kind of wonder if Stephen King actually did that.
Well, you can tell he was affected by his childhood.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, did he grow up with, like, a group of, you know, 3 other group of friends, you know, that he's kind of basing a lot of these characters? Because if you notice in a lot of his movies, he has, like, 4, you know, really good guy friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as
Dreamcatcher, It.
Yeah.
The Stand. There's a lot of different characters. I think he's just good at characters.
Yeah.
Characterization or whatever. But we're not here to talk about Stephen King this episode.
No, we're not.
This episode, we are talking about a movie that came out in 1999 called She's All That. It was directed by Robert Iskov. The writer was Arlie Fleming Jr. Now, do we know if that's the only writer? Did you hear all the rumors when they came out about this movie?
Was it Freddie Prinze Jr. or something like that?
No, about who ghost wrote it.
Who?
M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, really?
So he came out in like 2013 or something and said that he had ghostwritten She's All That. And, you know, the writer, oh gosh, what was his name? I just said his name. The Arlie Fleming Jr. You know, he came back and said, no, that's not true. But then he deleted that tweet.
Really?
Yeah. So apparently, like, you know, even filmmakers or, you know, producers or whatever they had said, actually, there's a little bit of truth to that. And I guess what he wrote, so he wrote things like the bet. You know, he kind of beefed up the whole bet scene. He did the hacky sack scene, the performance art scene, and a few others and stuff to just kind of beef. So apparently there was a script written, and then he kind of turned it more Hollywood or something. I don't know how M. Night Shyamalan goes more Hollywood than less Hollywood or whatever. But yeah, so apparently, you know, before his Sixth Sense, like when did the Sixth Sense come out? Do you remember?
It's like 96 though.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of it.
So we're saying that he wrote this after he had blown up with The Sixth Sense. No, that one was 1999 as well. Maybe he did some writing on it. Yeah, that's when it was released. Maybe he did some writing on it when he was in production as well. He wasn't sure if The Sixth Sense was going to take off, so he took on a writing job or something. Because that came out in 1999 as well.
Yeah, you'll see some of these like big time, you know, directors and stuff, especially nowadays. Most of them are like grew up as nerdy type people, you know what I mean, and they grew up in that kind of culture, and so you know they don't mind coming back from, you know, big huge films to go into work on a Big Bang episode or well,
Will Wheaton kind of just fell off though after Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that, but what I'm saying is, like, you know, you see a lot of these big directors that go on these movies and stuff like that, and you know, direct episodes of TV shows or something like that. You know, like who's it? Kevin Smith did some Supergirl episodes, and who was it? Some people did some like.
I think Kevin Smith did Big Bang as well, because Kevin Smith was on Big Bang.
Yeah. Oh, and then Jon Favreau did an episode of what was it? Oh man, it was something I was watching pretty recently. It was just a regular TV show. I mean, not the Mandalorian, obviously, but
he's done a lot behind the camera as well as in front of the camera.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, back then in the early 90s and stuff like that, it was unheard of a director coming on to a TV show, or, you know.
Do you remember Jon Favreau in The Replacements? You know, with Keanu Reeves with the football team and stuff?
Yeah. He was hilarious in that one.
He was like a psychopath in that.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, this is another you know, continue our month with 90s teen movie. We took a week off. If you guys listened to the Can't Hardly Wait episode, you could hear I had a little bit of problems with my breathing. I was coughing a lot, taking very long labored breaths. Had a mini asthma attack after that episode. So, but glad to be back here talking about this. We're going to extend this month into February a little bit so we can talk about the movies that we wanted to, since we took a week off. So today we're talking about She's All That. This movie is probably the most iconic of the late teen 90s teen movies. We did Can't Hardly Wait last week, and while that is iconic in its own ways, I'd say She's All That is probably the most popular.
Well, it's my favorite one. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, and a lot of people really like this. I mean, in the parody that came after the Not Another Teen Movie, I mean, this was the primary thing that it spoofed. And you know, it's like, I guess it's more representative of all late 90s teens, like the pinnacle of late 90s teen movies. But I
mean, look at the cast of this movie.
Yeah, this movie stars Freddie Prinze Jr. as the lead, Zach Seiler. Also stars Rachel Leigh Cook as Lainey Boggs, Matthew Lillard as Brock Hudson, Paul Walker, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, Kevin Pollak, Anna Paquin, Kieran Culkin. I mean, Usher, Little Kim, Gabrielle Union, Dule Hill, Clea Duvall. You know, this cast.
This is what I'm saying. I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's the amount of you know, famous actors in this film is just, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, even Alexis Arquette.
Yep.
Chris Owen. We had Klepto Kid, and that was in Can't Hardly Wait, is in this movie.
Yep.
You know, this movie. It's just you know, like you said, so full of all this talent. But I mean, it's still around that time where, you know, you had all these teens that were looking for work when 2 years previous to this, Scream came out. Yeah. Suddenly, in the last 2 years between Scream and this movie, these these teens or young adults or whatever were starting to get more work, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's in this movie. Everybody's going for all these teen movies. Get what you can so you can get in the spotlight because that's what's blowing up and everything. This follows one of those movie tropes, the rom-com tropes, where a guy or a girl makes a bet to that they can get with somebody else or make somebody beautiful or whatever it may be. It's in another movie that we are still deciding if we want to do for this month called 10 Things I Hate About You. There was a bet in that one. What are some more movies like this where, they make a bet about getting with somebody or being with somebody or changing somebody and then they end up falling for them or whatever?
Well, that formula tends to work really well in like horror movies and stuff like that, and then it ends up turning into a Carrie situation. You know what I mean? I mean, Carrie's kind of like that in a sense.
Well, you have the ugly duckling into a beautiful swan thing, right?
And how they're kind of doing it. They're taking her to prom just so they could play this massive prank on her and drop a bunch of blood on her. It's kind of like the same situation.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean that'd be the horror movie routes with the pig's blood and everything, but. You got like Sabrina and Pretty Woman and Emma and all these different types of movies. But with bets and stuff, you got like this one. You got 10 Things I Hate About You. What was the other one I wrote down? How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yeah.
That's another. There's another bet. I mean, it's just kind of one of those common tropes where they start out with as D-bag. Characters at the beginning. Usually it's a male.
I mean, in the long run, like, did Freddie Prinze really change at all throughout the whole movie?
No, I don't think he did. I
He's
think
pretty
he was
much the same guy at the beginning of the movie.
I think he was a douchebag at the beginning, and he was a douchebag at the end.
Take her, for example. Short, decent rack, kind of Chelsea Clinton thing going on. But given the right look, the right boyfriend, bam, in 6 weeks, she's the one being crowned prom queen.
And he pretty much kind of lifted her. Yeah, made her, the ugly duckling, made her the queen of prom and all this other stuff. I mean, not really, but but at the same time, it changed her, but nothing changed about Freddie Prinze.
No.
So I mean,
he was okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, I'm just saying, like, when he's talking to her brother or something like that, at first meets her, calls him squid or something like that, or
something like that.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, he knows my name, and he's like, Spaz. Yeah, he called you Spaz. That's not your name, and it's like
that's not his name.
Yeah, but throughout the whole situation, I mean, he helped clean the house, right? But he got the JV soccer team to clean the house.
Yeah.
Like as a form of punishment. In a way.
He's delegating.
Right. But he's delegating.
He delegates his sister to make her up.
Exactly.
He delegates. Yeah.
So throughout this movie, I mean, if you I didn't really think about it until recently. I was like, it's more of a redemption story for her to know that she can be in both worlds kind of situation.
She can be herself, but she can also be herself. And open up
and accepting, accepting other people and having
accepting
of
herself
her.
And accepting of the fact that she is beautiful and it's okay to act beautiful, to be beautiful, dress up, and to socialize with people and all that kind of stuff.
But I mean, so in a sense, it's more or less like a redemption or a changing, from the black duckling to the white, beautiful swan or whatever you want to call it, whatever that story was, but. It's kind of like that, you know what I mean? Where it's a changing and redemption story about her, but with him, he doesn't really change. He's exactly the same character. He might be a little bit nicer but by being nice to her brother and her dad and everything else like that, he's still being mean and rude to other people.
I think the only thing he realizes is the bet that he made was a bit shallow. And all that kind of stuff. But I mean, he really didn't have to change much to keep the girl.
Yeah.
I think he said sorry, or maybe he didn't even say sorry. Yeah. I think he just showed up at her house at the end or something, and they danced.
I know,
and kissed
that
her.
was so random.
So I mean, there was no real apology. I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he did.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really was. I mean, it was real quick.
Yeah.
There was. I don't know. Anyways, this movie is at the tail end of the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Right at it's 1999. It's before Y2K. Crazy to think of. When everybody thought that the world's computers were going to crash. Come January 1st, 2000. But this,
I was at a party at that time.
Were you at a party? This is 90s all the way down to the title, right?
Yeah.
She's all that. Like, who says that anymore?
Nobody says that anymore.
So there was like a Nickelodeon sketch show back in the day, and back in the 90s called All That. And it was kind of like a Saturday Night Live or
it had Keenan and Kel and Amanda Bynes.
Yeah, Amanda Bynes was in it, and it was called All That. You know, and that was like a term. She's all that. Oh, it's like you rock. You're awesome.
Yeah.
You're all that. So I mean, it's dating itself with the title right off the bat.
Yeah.
And then with the music that it kicks off with. Did you recognize who it was? Remy Zero.
Oh yeah.
So my favorite TV show, Smallville. The theme song for Smallville was "Save Me" by Remy Zero. This is another Remy Zero. Is this called Prophecy? I think it's called Prophecy or something like that. But it's all 90s, right down to the title, the song sequence that kicks it off with her doing her art, her crazy weird art and stuff, and she kicks it off, showing how just antisocial she is, how Janine Garofalo she is, to use another 90s reference.
And I'm sorry, like I mean, I didn't go to a very big high school, but our nerds didn't. Our nerdy people, let's just say. I mean, I was kind of in the middle there, but the nerdy people in school, whatever. None of them looked that good.
Okay.
I'm just saying. So
since you bring it up, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Okay. So the big thing with this movie is, and what not another teen movie and so many other movies parodied after that, is the whole. The ugly duckling or whatever, she wears glasses and she wears her hair up, right? And by the end of the movie, all she's done is taken her glasses off. She's let her hair down and suddenly she's beautiful, right? Yeah. Now, I get it. People say that about this movie, and they're right. That is what happened. But, you miss little nuances. Like, a lot of people don't know she does have a unibrow, but you can't really see it because she has her glasses and everything. So, I mean, there are different little things here. I mean, even that, okay, so it's a unibrow. So, it's still Rachel Leigh Cook with a unibrow. Who cares? But it's not so much about her looks. It's about her personality. Yeah. And that's what... I always thought those same criticism about this movie. Like, oh, yeah, she takes her hair, takes her glasses off, lets her hair down. She's beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. But it's more about her personality, right? She is mousy and adorable and all that kind of stuff, but she's very angry and acerbic,
and antisocial,
very antisocial. And so, people don't want anything to do with her, not because of her looks necessarily. People don't really look at her like that because they don't want to look at her at all, because they don't want to catch a side glance from her or whatever, because she's always so angry and she's always so acerbic that people just don't want anything to do with her personality and everything. Oh, stay away from her, she'll go off on you. Stay away from her, she's crazy and all this kind of stuff, because she's just got that harsh personality because of her childhood growing up and not having a mom because her mom died so early. So it's more about the personality. So people don't even really give her a second look because she's just stay away from her. But once people start looking and once people start paying attention to her, and our lead, Zach, starts paying attention to her, that's when it's kind of like, oh, wait, there's more to not only her personality, but now I'm actually looking at her. She's very beautiful. Who cares if she has her hair up? Now they have to make her into the prom queen and everything, so they do have to physically make her up. But he realizes, oh, she actually is very beautiful in these little moments, these little side glances that she has and different things like that. Whenever he tells her eyes are beautiful and she goes, oh, you're kidding me. She's like, get out of here. She's like, my eyes are beautiful. I thought that was hilarious.
Well, yeah, because it seems so natural, like that her commenting on that was just very natural in the way she was saying it,
Exactly. And in real life, that's what people would say.
Yeah.
And in movies, it'd be like, your eyes are beautiful, and she'd be like, oh, swept up in the romance, and so she goes, oh, please, my eye. And then she walks away, and she's like, when the captain of the soccer team, starts touching my face in a dark alleyway, that's.
Well, I want to speak on that too, because this one thing I noticed is that in a lot of these '90s movies, I noticed, or late '90s, teen comedies, whatever the crap we're calling it now.
Just call them teen movies.
Whatever.
No, the 90s teen movies.
Okay, the January podcast movies that we're doing. So, have you noticed that, like, all back in the 80s and early 90s and stuff, it was all about football was like the surrounding sport at schools. But in these movies, it's always like lacrosse or soccer or, something that's not very big.
And it's California.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like those 3 years, from 97 to 99, 2000, whatever, that little period, it was all about, it wasn't like high school football, was the background to the whole entire,
well, maybe that's
movie.
because we grew up, around like Texas and different places like that, or at least had families that were in Texas, and so football was a big thing. But I mean, like this takes place in California, and so California out there, sports are going to be, it's not so heavy on the football. They have soccer and lacrosse and different things like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's some of those sports, I guarantee when it came out, like I didn't know what lacrosse was at when I was younger or whatever. Like I'm like lacrosse, I'm like have no clue what lacrosse is, and so it's like they throw in lacrosse. It's like a bunch of sticks that are throwing a ball with the stick, and trying to make a goal of some sort. Yeah, but it's like something. I don't understand it, but I probably still don't understand it actually. But going with that.
Well, so the premise of the movie is basically we open up with this character Laney Boggs, which interestingly enough, there's a few things about the naming of the characters. Laney Boggs, that name is named after two Winona Ryder characters. Do you know which Winona Ryder characters those are? From which movies?
Eating Gilbert Grape.
No. She wasn't even in that movie, but okay. No, so Lainey Pierce in Reality Bites.
Okay.
That was Winona Ryder's name. And then her name in Edward Scissorhands was Kim Boggs. So Laney Boggs. That's where they got Laney Boggs from.
So where does Who's Eating Gilbert Grape fit in?
It doesn't fit in anywhere except for Johnny Depp. Okay. You got Johnny Depp on the brain.
Well, no, I mean, didn't he date Winona Ryder?
He did. Wino forever.
So there's the connection. 7
Winona
degrees
forever, Wino forever.
2 degrees of Johnny Depp. Okay,
I guess so. You probably won't know this. Zach and Taylor. The Zach is played by Freddie Prinze Jr. His girlfriend, who breaks up with him at the beginning, is Taylor. Do you know where those names come from?
Saved by the Bell.
They're close. It's a popular group back in the late '90s called Hanson. And two of the members of Hanson were Zach and Taylor, and that's where they got the name for those.
It's kind of corny.
It's weird. But, I mean, that's what I'm saying is, like, these movies, all these movies are going to be always going to be dated, right? They're not, what do you call them, transcendent movies where you can watch them in any, at any time, and they can still speak, like Alien or something like that, it doesn't really capture the time of the 70s or whatever, except in its technology.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's this is all 90s stuff, which kids nowadays a lot wouldn't get. With,
right.
Jelly sandals and Surge and flip phones and different
clothes,
things.
Man, I mean, come on, now.
Jinkos and I think
Hawaiian shirts with just like weirdly colored parachute pants.
Tommy Hilfiger's overalls. Remember Lucas had some of those.
The bleached hair, bleached
and everything.
Hair.
Yeah. So, but basically, it opens up with Lainey, who is a very angry, artsy type of person who doesn't want to have anything to do with the social structure of the school. But she's trying to get a scholarship into an art school. She needs one because her family's poor, her dad's barely making it, that type of thing. And then you have Zach, who we see come up to the school, and this guy he's got
portraits in the school.
He's got that's I was going to talk about that. I have a note on that, but he's got
Chris Evans did that in another teen movie.
But
right?
then it shows him looking at a picture of himself.
So looking at a picture of himself.
So like it's he arrives at the school. So this guy is like got the 4th or 5th highest GPA, and it's mentioned like 5 or 6 times in the movies. I have the fifth highest GPA in the class. You know, and so he's got scholarships and all kinds of stuff. He's the plays soccer. He's the president of the student body. All this kind of stuff. You know, he's got everything. So he shows up at the school, and he shows up in his real nice car in his parking spot, his own parking spot, which I've never known a school to have a parking spot for the student president or whatever, but his license plate on his vehicle even says Prez. He must have just gotten that for senior year, because you only become student body president in your senior year, right? You can only hold that office as a senior. So he must have just gotten that, and it says Prez. He gets out. You don't really see him until he walks up to a picture, and it's a picture of him, of his face, and then he turns around and you see it's him, and he's smiling because he's, you know, a douchebag looking at his own picture, and he thinks. And then in not another teen movie, when they spoofs it with Chris Evans, it shows Chris Evans walking up and looking at a picture of himself looking at a picture of himself. So, you know, it goes a little bit meta there, but he arrives at the school, and this high school is Torrance High School in Torrance, California. Do you know
Buffy the Vampire
Slayer?
Slayer. I know this because I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love the movie. I love the show, and the fact that it was the same exact high school is pretty funny, because the relationship between Buffy herself, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Freddie Prinze, who happen to be married, for like 20 years now or something?
Yeah.
Probably longer.
Well,
right?
Apparently Howard Stern owes Freddie Prinze Jr. some money, because he told Freddie Prinze Jr. back when they very first got married, like late 90s, early 2000s, Freddie Prinze has like a shaved head and stuff.
Yeah.
But he told him, he's like, you're going to cheat. You guys are going to get divorced. He goes, 5 years. I bet you $1 million. And to this day, they're still married. He never cheated. They actually pretty much left Hollywood.
Yeah.
Still happily married to this day. So Freddie Prinze Jr. is like, Howard, you owe me $1 million.
And I feel like I've seen her in a lot more things more recently than him. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really even name the last thing he's done.
Remember the Robin Williams thing that we talked about on our Toys episode?
Yeah.
She was in that show.
Yeah. She played his daughter.
Yeah, it was. He was his ad executive, but he was like a goofy guy.
Yeah.
But she was all serious and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he showed up there, and you know, obviously that's the school that they filmed Buffy in, and obviously later on in the movie we see a Sarah Michelle Gellar cameo with her in the lunchroom.
3 seconds.
Yeah, and she said she'd do it as long as she
didn't talk,
as long as she didn't speak or anything. So you know, Rory Culkin, or not Rory, I'm sorry, Kieran Culkin.
How many Culkins are there? I mean, seriously, you see these guys, like, there's so many. They're like the Wayans brothers, really. You know what I mean? There's so many Wayans
brothers,
out there,
cousins,
sisters, nephews, nieces. I mean, there's so many Wayans, and the same thing with the Culkins. You know, I mean, obviously, Macaulay's the original.
He's the
OG.
But I mean, the ones doing more things in Hollywood are Rory and Kieran.
Yeah.
So like Kieran Culkin, he plays what is it, Simon? Yeah, Simon in this movie, and for some reason he's walking around and giving salt and pepper to people on their trays. I don't know if he's a lunch aide or something. And apparently in California they have high schoolers salting and peppering people's food like a waiter or walking around and everything. I don't know if that's the real California high school experience, but Kieran played real quick, Sarah Michelle Gellar was in that. She didn't, but they were filming on the other side of the high school at the time. And I think they had already done, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think at this point, Freddie Prinze and Sarah Michelle were dating, and all that kind of stuff.
But I mean, seriously, they've been married for what, like 25 years now?
Yeah. Well, I know it's been at least 20 because this movie came out in 99. So at least 20.
Yeah.
At least 20 years or so.
I mean, good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, but Kieran Culkin, who is we were just talking about, he played Fuller in Home Alone and Home Alone 2, the one that would always pee the bed. He was also in Scott Pilgrim and something else. Rory was the one that was in Scream 4.
Yeah.
I think wasn't Kieran in or was it Kieran or Rory that was in The Sixth or Signs, or was it a completely different Culkin altogether?
I don't know. That's why I said there's many of them, right?
There's
a few brothers,
and I feel bad, but I'm like it's hard for me to kind of to keep these in line. But yeah, Rory Culkin, who is in Signs as the son with the asthma and stuff, he was the one that was also in Scream 4. Okay. So just a little history there, but so anyways, I did have that note written down about him looking at his own picture and everything. So anyways, we get Jodie Lynn O'Keefe coming as Taylor. She's his girlfriend, and she has some news for him. They're all coming back from spring break. Well, she cheated on him over spring break with a reality TV show from the real world. And his name is Brock Hudson. And
Matthew Lillard,
and obviously played by Matthew Lillard in this movie. What did you think of Brock? You obviously know who they're parodying. I don't know how adept you are to the real world.
No,
cast.
at the beginning of the real world, yeah. I when it first came out, I am.
Do you remember the cast member's name?
He was like Bug or something.
Puck.
Right? Puck. There we go. That's right.
So Puck and Brock. It even sounds a lot alike.
Yeah.
And they kind of acted a lot alike.
Yeah, he farts everywhere.
And Puck was like this guy that would like piss everybody off. And I think he was in the very, very first season of The Real World.
Yeah.
And he would piss everybody off. And I don't know if he eventually got kicked out of the house.
It's probably like the originator of reality TV. It's got to be Real World.
The Real World?
Yeah, I feel like I
think Big Brother in the UK, I think that's been going on for a while on the BBC.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, like with Real World, I mean, that came out in like early 90s,
I think that's probably the first of the scripted reality shows, where they're real, but they're not real. A lot of the confrontations are made up.
Yeah.
And are scripted and all that kind of
Jerry
stuff.
Springer episodes.
That and the Jersey Shore and Buck Wild. Do you remember Buck Wild?
Yeah, I can't stand any reality TV shows. I cannot watch any of them.
It's trash TV. It's one of those guilty pleasure trash things that I'll watch like Jersey Shore. I can't stop watching. Like,
what is wrong with you?
I don't watch it all the time, but
Thank God.
every once in a while I'll be like, I want to watch, if I see it for free or something. I'm like, this is just trash. It's a train wreck that you can't stop. Now, I get sick of it after a while because
like Cops. I can watch Cops. I think Cops is hilarious on a lot of things.
Yeah,
they do a lot of funny stuff. But I mean, as far as reality TV show, that's about as far as I go. Because, what the Pawn Shop one? I like those ones. Those aren't really scripted because I mean, a lot of this stuff really, you'll see live people going on that show to sell stuff.
Well, yeah, I think Steve Carell went in there too, and it was really awkward how they were trying to act like it was real and stuff. But did you ever watch Buck Wild? I think it was another MTV thing, but it was more about like people that lived in hollers. It might have been, and like it's like very redneck and stuff, and just these people that, and like the main guy on there that was like always the one doing crazy things. He actually died.
Oh wow!
They went like mudding and stuff, and then they just turned they left the car running to stay warm or something and fell asleep in their truck, and there's like a hole with the exhaust, and they all ended up, suffocating and dying in the truck and stuff. But it was crazy. But that was a really good show.
Yeah. Well, so I thought this was probably Matthew Lillard's worst role. I mean,
worst role as in most unlikable.
Well, it's
very
unlikable,
unlikable.
but it just really didn't seem like he was making any effort in the acting.
He looked like he was just having fun, and he had to play that crazy, outlandish personality. So he wasn't taking it too seriously.
And him and Freddie Prinze have to be pretty good friends. As many movies as they've been on together, it's kind of like the James Franco and Seth Rogen kind of thing. You know what I mean? And so it's. They've got to be good
and
friends.
Jason Segel.
Yeah.
They were all friends back in Freaks and Geeks and kind of came up together and everything. But
yeah. But it's kind of like one of those things where, they have to be friends because, I mean, some of the movies that they do are just so corny. Because, I mean, you look back and She's All That, right? I think it's the best one out of all those teen dramas that we're doing this month.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the best of them, but... you start watching these again and again, all these different types of movies, and you're just like, man, this is so corny. This is so corny.
But that's because, I mean, ever since then we've gotten, movies have to be more realistic.
Yeah.
The acting has to be more realistic.
Yeah.
The script have to be so dire and bleak and realistic that it's like, why are we escaping into cinema anymore if we're just dealing with the same crap we do?
Why
in
can't
our
we
real
have
life?
dance bits anymore in the middle of movies? That make
Can't
no
wait
sense.
to talk about that. So let's get into some of the other introductions here. I had completely forgotten, and then I said, of course, that's who it is. When Dule Hill showed up as one of the friends, I was like, it's Gus. It's Gus from Psych.
But I think he was that character first. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, he
I
was.
know,
Yeah. I mean, and he almost had that. He he had the big hair. It's almost like an afro.
Yeah.
It's not quite a high top.
Yeah.
A high top fade or anything like that. But I mean, it's very high hair. So in Psych, whenever Sean was like, talking about his hair back in the day, and he goes to Sean, he's like, I never had a high top, Sean, and everything. And I just thought of this because I was like, he did have that high hair and everything. So maybe that was something that they were referencing and joking around about in the show.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to talk about that, right? The similarities between Psych and this movie in particular.
Yeah, because there was at least 2 actors from this movie that were in Psych, and that was Rachel Leigh Cook and Freddie Prinze Jr. were both in Psych.
Right. Let's see. What am I trying to say?
So Rachel Leigh Cook played Abigail, who was Sean's high school love interest that he left on the dock and left town. Whenever he left town, she was the last thing he saw. He went to meet her and saw her, and then just got scared and left town. And then Freddie Prinze Jr. Please remember, he was a nerdy friend of theirs when they were younger. And they went to meet him when he was older, and he's all like jock now, and he's got the football jersey and everything, and he's helping them with the case. But then we find out that he does still have like a secret nerd cave and everything. So I just thought that was cool. And, you get to see Dule Hill and Freddie Prinze Jr. work together again and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was cool. Also, and I had mentioned this last episode. Remember I talked about some actors we had lost between then and now?
Yeah.
So, talking about our first one here is Paul Walker, who played such a good role in this line because it's so anti to what he would play from then on for the most part, and so anti what he was in real life if you hear other people talk about him.
Yeah.
He's just such a bad person. I mean, Freddie Prinze Jr. is not a good person.
No.
He's about as terrible as Paul Walker, in my opinion. But the movie makes him out to be seem to be better than he is.
Well, those type of dudes actually existed in high school, and they still to this day. I mean, you have those type of people.
I never met anybody like that or knew of anybody that was that awful. I thought it was more of a caricature, but then again, I tried to stick away from most of that.
Well, I mean, when it comes to it, I mean, like we were talking with Can't Hardly Wait. All those personalities, they exist, but they're exaggerated. Just like these two are. They exist, but I think they're a lot exaggerated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that type of character, and that, and it was funny because Dule Hill is the only one that's really kind of got any kind of common sense out of the 3. Between Paul Walker and Freddie Prinze.
I guess,
he's
but
the only one that really
laughing at the bet though. He's like,
I know that, but I mean, at the same time, it's you can also tell that he's really not going to have any part of it. He doesn't want any part of it. Of that situation.
Well, yeah, when he was trying to get the girls to play soccer with them or whatever, volleyball at the beach and stuff, and she's like, Lainey, you want to come? And she's like, oh, she doesn't want to do that, and he goes, is your name Lainey?
Yeah,
just like, I don't care. And then she goes, no, thank God. No offense. I thought that was delivered so awesome. But Paul Walker, I felt like in this one, he's kind of new. This is one of his early roles. He's definitely got like kind of a rounder baby face.
Yeah.
Maybe before he lost, because he was jacked in this movie.
Yeah.
First of all, he delivers lines like he's not sure if he's going to make it to the end.
Yeah.
Kind of like he's remembering it as he says it, so you can tell he's kind of fresh and everything.
Surfer dude type mentality.
Yeah, but based on his mass here, like you saw him in the locker room scene, like he was way more jacked here than you see him later on.
Okay.
I think if he had kept going this way, he would have been more jacked than Vin Diesel in those the Fast and Furious
movies.
But
then you get to look at it and you're like, I think the reason Vin Diesel looked jacked, I mean, he might have been big, but the way he carried himself, you know what I mean? Like, because then you put The Rock right next to him, right? And The Rock's like double his size.
Well, yeah.
And you realize it, and Rock's a big dude, but at the same time, you're like, okay, maybe Vin Diesel, I mean, is not as big as he looks. You know what I mean? And the same thing with Paul Walker. Maybe it's just the camera.
But I don't know. I know in this movie you could tell that like he was going for a certain type of body type and acting. Probably wanted to be like a kind of a muscle bound action star. Yeah. And then started doing other things, you know. He has great acting in this film. You know, I think Rachel Leigh Cook even talked about how, you know, he became so well known for Fast and Furious movies, but some of his smaller roles, you know, he's done such an amazing job in his acting. And in fact, when Paul Walker's character picks up Laney for the dance at the end of the at the end of the movie.
Now, were you expecting that? Let me ask you this. I mean, I know it's the first time you watched it was a long time ago, and that's why it's kind of hard to do when you do podcasts over like movies that you saw 20 years ago, right? That you know, were you surprised when you first watched it? Do you remember? Were you surprised that he was the one standing there?
When I watched it this time, I was like, I bet it's Paul Walker, and of course I remembered. For some reason, I think when I was younger, I even then I was like, well, it's either going to be Paul Walker or Freddie Prinze Jr. Right. And I'm like, it'd be too obvious if it was Freddie Prinze, if it was Zach. So when you see Dean, who's Paul Walker's character, then you're like, oh, okay. But at the end of that scene, whenever he was, you know, just like, look, I didn't ask anybody else for the chance that you would say yes, and you know, he's acting like, I mean,
he's a manipulative douchebag.
He acts like such a good guy, and then I guess when they were done with the take, the cameraman, you know, kind of comes out from behind the camera and is like, I'd believe him. You know, he actually said that. Yeah. And Rachel Leigh Cook said that was an interesting memory she had, that the cameraman, you know, you don't get much from the sound crew or the film crew or whatever.
Right.
You know, besides the director. But when you get a cameraman that comes out and is like, I'd believe him, you know, that's when you know you did some good acting and everything. Yeah. He just plays that nice guy so well. And I think that's maybe because that's who he was really like. But
now, did you like the whole kind of side story, I would call it, you know, between Matthew Lillard and Jodie Lynn O'Keefe character? You know, like the whole kind of, they were kind of just throwing, basically, you were kind of seeing a train wreck slowly happening. You know what I mean? Like it was a side story. Where
I thought they were both on drugs at that party. Because you remember they come stumbling down the stairs and all that kind of stuff.
They were drunk, or so they had to be drunk.
Well, they were drunk, but it looked like they were like getting into drugs and stuff.
It was kind of a bad way of showing. Like they didn't look like they were drunk. You know, just like you said. You know, you thought they were on drugs, but they didn't look like they were drunk.
Yeah, you know, it was a little bit more than drinking, I think. But you know, I think, you know, as far as Matthew Lillard just kind of not really putting a lot of effort into this role, I will say that he pulled off the whole. You know, the guy who, like, whenever he's watching, you know, obviously he wants to watch himself on the real world more than he wants to make out or have sex with the Taylor character and everything. And it gets to the point where you remember, and he's like, you know, nobody's taking me seriously here. And he goes, hey, what's up, man? And they're like, screw you. And he's like, see what I'm talking about? You know, he's just like so upset about it and everything. I thought that was funny, but his whole character, it kind of got annoying. It kind of
even that whole side story, but it was just kind of like
his dance.
Yeah, and it was like kind of breaking a fourth wall in a way. You know what I mean? Like that whole side story, because you remember Freddie Prinze starts hallucinating in a sense, or dreaming or whatever it was, where he thought he was talking to Matthew Lillard on the real world. You know, and
very meta scene.
Yeah, I mean, because you knew exactly what was happening. Yeah. You know, I mean, it wasn't like, hey, what's happening? Is he on the real world? Yeah. On the TV or on the movie? You know, and you knew it automatically.
Was very good. Yeah.
Yeah, you knew automatically it was some sort of dream or you know, thought in his head or whatever. But it, you know, those two work very well together on screen, even if they were only on screen for like probably a total of 5 minutes together throughout this whole movie.
Oh, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. Are you talking about Jodie Lynn O'Keefe and Matthew Lillard?
Freddie Prinze and Matthew Lillard together. They were only maybe 5 minutes in the entire movie.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. She was one of these. She was in that Whatever It Takes movie too, right? With the guy from Walk to Remember. I can't remember.
Yeah, the British guy.
And
right?
and James Franco. No,
isn't he British in real life though? Not James Franco, obviously, but I want to say he is.
Who?
The actor that you're talking about, the one in
the one to Walk to Remember.
Yeah.
No, he was also in that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I can't remember what his name is. But anyways, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe was one of these. She always plays an unlikable person, right? And I think it's because she has the RBF, right? Don't you think? I mean, she's just got that angry look on her, But I mean, I'm not saying that happens all the time, but I mean, like she pulls it off really well. That RBF and giving that sinister look and all that. That being said, she did play a very likable person in Halloween H2O. She was that one girlfriend and everything, but
she kind of plays the same role no matter what movie she's doing,
except for in H2O. But yeah, whenever she is playing that bitchy person, it's the same person. You remember her in Prison Break? She worked for the bad guys.
Yeah. And almost the same exact character,
Yeah, just that person grown up and turned into like an assassin.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, obviously she does a very good job of being unlikable, but she does lead the dance number at the end. Now, as we've talked about, a lot of these movies have, they'll have these ridiculous dance numbers or whatever. Can't Hardly Wait had the Paradise City singing scene and all that. So Harvey Weinstein, obviously Dimension produced this movie and everything, and the Weinsteins did.
Are we allowed to say his name on radio?
It's whatever. This guy, this gross, disgusting guy. He said that She's All That needed a sword fight. He wanted a sword fight. And how do you get, I don't know if it's like a drama department, like, it's part of a play, but it's like the characters are like sword fighting and practicing, but it's like kind of crossing over with real events, so then they start to sword fight and all this. But he wanted a sword fight scene. He thought that the movie needed a sword fight scene, but he didn't understand the dance number scene. Which a lot of people are like, well, why is there a dance number? How did people start spontaneously dancing? Yeah. But for some guy to say, I don't understand that, but I want a sword fight scene, that's a little weird. So I don't know how that was supposed to go, if it was supposed to be like a Leonardo DiCaprio, Romeo plus Juliet type of situation.
Who comes up with these ideas? I mean, really.
But, but I will say there was some Shakespearean stuff that I want to talk about in a minute. But with the whole dance number scene, it can be explained, and I think that they actually did film a scene, I don't know if it's in the movie, if it got cut or whatever, where Usher does say, all right, just like I taught you guys in dance class or whatever. So I don't know if Usher was meant to be a student
or a teacher,
or some kind of a teacher type of person who just got out of college and is teaching dance class and is the DJ or what, I don't know.
But at that year, in '99, I mean, that wasn't his first high school type movie, was it?
Well, no, I think Faculty. He was in the Faculty.
Yep.
And this one, I don't know if he's in any of the others, but I was going to ask what happened to him, because it looked like he was ramping up to start to be in movies, and then he
just put out. He had so much music out, and then he's the one that.
But he had a lot of controversy, didn't he?
But
with Chili and from TLC and all that kind of stuff.
But which is kind of funny because you could see the parallels between him and Chris Brown, right?
Yeah,
because Chris Brown, started acting like OC.
Usher was never like physically, as far as we know.
As far as we know. But I mean, the thing is he also is the one that founded Justin Bieber. Usher did. Yeah, and signed Justin Bieber.
It was like Kelly Clarkson. Didn't somebody sing to Kelly Clarkson in the middle of an airport or something? And she was like, I can't remember, something like that. So he was in there. I don't know what happened to him, but yeah, I know he was in the Faculty in this movie. Those are the only ones I can remember he was in. But basically, what it is, and I could buy it, is that these group of people that were at the dance had been learning this dance all year to do at prom together, like it was a joined effort. And so I'm like, okay, that's plausible. I could see people like that doing it in high school. Let's make a big to do at the prom and learn a dance number the whole year through.
But stuff like that doesn't really happen in real life.
It could. I mean, I've known weirder things to happen in high school, or to them to put on skits and different things like that.
My last day of high school, somebody called in a threat to my last day. So literally,
I wouldn't call that a skit, though.
But no, I'm not saying it's a skit. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's probably the weirdest thing that happened to me in school.
Yeah.
Just because I would go to last day of school, somebody called in a threat, and we had to end up bouncing out, and like within the first 2 hours of school.
Yeah, but
we
see,
didn't
some
get to
people
say
are like,
goodbye to
sweet,
nobody.
peace
Yeah, I
out,
know.
early out.
Oh, I know. I mean, that happened, but it didn't matter to me either way.
Yeah.
So.
So, I mean, I guess you could explain it that way, and that explains why Lainey wasn't doing much. She was doing like the little karate chop down, karate chop up, karate chop down, karate chop up, and that's about it. But it explained why. And she was like, Rachel Leigh Cook was mortified at that because when she had read the script, that part wasn't in there. And then she found out there was going to be a dance number, so she actually went to the director and was like, I don't think my character would be in with the in crown and be learning this dance. And the director was like, that's a good point. So she got to actually get out of the dance. But I think Freddie Prinze Jr. did too, because I didn't see him in there. I saw Jody Lynn O'Keefe and a couple of the others. But remember when they were doing the girls against the guys face-off thing? It was her, but then it was some other dude and a bunch of other like background dancers and stuff. So I'm like, I don't know if maybe Freddie Prinze Jr. was just so bad that they're like, okay, we got to keep him out of the movie or something. But I didn't really see him front and center, and you would think that he'd be front and center in something like that.
Well, I don't care what you say, but nothing will justify having that scene in the movie. Nothing you can ever say will justify that.
At the beginning of the school year, all right, as student body,
I get what you're saying.
As student body president, we're going to get together. Everybody, we have this dance class. We're going to take an hour every day after school, and by prom time, we got Usher, who's a dance guy. And he's going to high school with us now.
It's going downhill.
And so he's going to teach us how to do this awesome dance. And nobody's really going to be filming it or anything, but we're going to just do it with us. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it could be explained better, a lot better than a sword fight, though.
Well, both those situations don't apply. Shouldn't apply here, in my view. But I mean, I don't know if that was a thing. I mean, I grew up. I went to high school in '99. But it's like, was that I don't feel like that was an ever thing. It's
let's talk about something that's a little bit more of a thing, and that's the rappers who were beatboxing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I felt like that and the Usher on the radio.
Well, that's where the name came from, right? You know that, right?
Right, I know, and that's what I'm saying is that I felt like like you have soliloquies and like Shakespeare's plays, right?
Yeah.
So you have Hamlet, you have the to be or not to be, where you're just talking out loud and you're kind of talking about what's going on in the story. It's what's called an exposition scene, right?
Yeah. I get
so you're like, okay, this is what's going on.
Yeah, there's things going in the background why the main character might be breaking that fourth wall in a way and talking about
Right, you have the bard, whatever, who's singing to the audience and telling them what's going on. I felt like you had that with Usher on the radio talking, this guy broke up and all this kind of stuff, talking about, this is what's going on in the movie. And then you got the rappers that were beatboxing there, and weirdly Paul Walker's smoking a cigarette. I don't know, they had to be edgy or something back in the 90s. That was it just felt weird, that scene. But the rappers talking about, this is what Lainey's doing, Taylor's old news, Lainey's the new thing, and then at the end, she's all that.
Yeah.
And so that's you got the title of the movie. That's where that comes from. Is those the rappers. She's all that. I just thought it was kind of a cool little
and
thing.
Even Freddie Prinze does that thing where he pretty much breaks the fourth wall, talks to the audience of the movie, kind of explaining you things here and there. You know what I mean? Like talking about Matthew Lillard's story and Jodie O'Keefe's story. Kind of. Explaining what happened, where Jodie Lee.
Right. You have those elements of, the bard exposition or whatever it might be. So I thought those were kind of cool little ways to, bring that old type of storytelling into, the modern movie or whatever it may be. But that was pretty interesting.
Well, what was your favorite part of the movie?
You go ahead, and then I'll say
my favorite scene is when the teacher comes up to her and talks to her about her painting and how well it received because it was about her mother. Like Freddie Prinze. It was kind of a combination of that one where Freddie Prinze is talking to her about, bringing in her art more personalization, more about her, not so much about what she sees, you know what I mean, or what she thinks, people want to see kind of thing, how she wants to, basically make her art more about her, what she feels, rather than what she thinks other people want to see.
Yeah.
And then her teacher coming up and saying, this is the best thing that you've done all year, of her painting of her mother or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, because what was she painting before that? It was like a sewer scene or something.
Yeah.
Because her dad was a pool guy, so I don't know. It had to do with like pipes and different things.
Yeah, but I think what it was is, like I said, it was she was trying to be edgy. You know what I mean? Because all the other the other people in the classrooms, the one that were rich and making fun of her and stuff like that.
Were you
the clowns?
Were you shocked by Clea Duvall?
She did such
Misty,
a good job
of them coming up to her and being like, "So we were just thinking that you should kill yourself."
That surprised me, especially
It
back
shocked
then.
me.
Yeah,
Because like nowadays, like you can't. I mean, things have gotten so much more dire with teens. I feel nowadays, like a lot more of them are you have things like 13 Reasons Why and things that like glamorize, in my opinion, glamorize the suicide and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, to have a 90s teen movie where you have these people where and she's like being attacked, like this would be something that someone would call quote unquote triggered nowadays. Just the way that they delivered it, they're just oh yeah, we were just we got to see this, we went to France, and talking about how rich she is and everything. She's like, we were just thinking that maybe you should kill yourself.
I know that was crazy, but she did a great job. She's a good actress,
She really is.
She whatever she does, I mean, she doesn't. It doesn't seem like she has a huge wide range because she kind of always plays that type of character. This one, she was rich, but she still played that kind of real RBF.
When did you first notice her?
Oh,
I wonder if it's the same as me.
It was not faculty.
That was the first time I noticed her.
Maybe it
Because,
was.
I mean, that's obviously not the first thing she was in, but it's the first time I noticed her. She was Stokely in The Faculty, and she was one of her and Josh Hartnett's character were probably my favorites from that movie. But I just thought she did a very good job of being a horrible, horrible, horrible human being.
Yeah.
And then when she was drunk at the toilet and saying, how does it feel to know I have all these scholarships and I can go where I want? Because Lainey's desperately trying to get a scholarship, and she's like, and you're cleaning up my vomit.
Yeah.
And all this kind of stuff, and she passes out, and then she has that makeup.
Yeah.
What was interesting about that is that Clea Duvall was actually doing another movie. It might have been The Faculty, but I know she was doing another movie, but they didn't know she was doing this movie, and she actually had to sneak out and fly to go do this movie. And then she had to be back at a certain time, the night that they were filming the scene where she got all painted up.
Yeah.
And they were, the people on She's All That knew that she had to get back to this other job.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, don't cry, don't do anything, or it's going to ruin the makeup and it'll take longer. So she was worried she'd get back on time. So she had to like clean it off as she was going to go back to doing her other thing. But, she was a very good character, but just because of how awful she was.
Yeah. But I mean, I hate to say it, but all these people were awful.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Freddie Prinze Jr. in a second, but I guess my favorite scene would be more the whenever she finds out that she was a bet. Yeah. So
Am I a bet?
You had three people there that were acting amazingly.
Yeah.
Like at the very beginning, I talked about how Paul Walker was just. If you watch him, it looks like he's trying to remember his lines as he's doing them, but as it goes on, it feels like he got better or something. But in that scene,
It's bullshit.
Wait, someone asking me is bullshit?
I thought we were going together. All right, Zach, enough's enough. This isn't cool anymore. I like this girl, and you gotta stop this whole bet thing. Look, Zach said he can make any girl prom queen, and you were the one picked, so he thinks that if he takes you to the prom, it'll help you win.
he's doing this innocent thing really well, while also being such a prick to the Zach character by throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, he's owning up to it, but
he's not owning up to it. He's
he wants her. Yeah, he wants her to think that he's owning up to it. So therefore, he's kind of getting a clean slate.
Or more that it was more Zach's deal, in that he never thought it was a good idea. You know, that's how he's acting and everything. Rachel Leigh Cook.
Is that true? My bet? Am I a bet? Am I a fucking bet?
Yes.
The way that she just throws that line at him and just sounds so hurt, so angry. She knew she shouldn't have done this, all this kind of stuff. Rachel Leigh Cook talks about this scene now, and she said she remembers that scene because it was really hard for Freddie Prinze Jr. to get through, because in real life, he's nothing like he is in this movie. In real life, he's kind of a softie and everything. So, and I guess what what Freddie Prinze Jr. was saying at the time was, how could any human being treat another person like this, and all that, and it's like the dawning of him of how awful this is made it hard for Freddie Prinze Jr.
I feel like
to get through the scene.
I feel like he's really his character on Psych. Like the character
like
he's
the
on
nerd.
Psych. Then I think he's like, he doesn't look like a nerd, but he does all the nerd things because that's how he grew up. I kind of feel like that's who he really is in a way, maybe.
Yeah, he just gets to go dabble in Hollywood every once in a while now, whenever he feels like it. But so that scene, it had all three of those people really working a good scene, and I like the kind of the tragic moments in stories, as long as eventually they're rectified or whatever. But I really enjoyed that. But talking about Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character, he's just an awful person. I mean, he was once he got broken up, I can turn any one of these girls into just all it takes is a little hair and makeup. So how shallow is that to begin with? And the fact that it's like, oh, we'll just take anybody, and we can turn him into prom queen or whatever. Very shallow the way he acts. He walks around like everybody has to do what he says. He goes over to her house and talks to her dad, kind of manipulates him. Talks to her brother, manipulates him, and all this kind of, oh, you want to go play some Sega, all this kind of stuff. And there's really no change at the end. She's still using her dad and her brother to get to her. He shows up at the house and they invite her in, even though he's been the way he has been through the whole movie.
And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, the guy never changes. Like he is, it's more of a growth story for Rachel Leigh Cook's character than it is Freddie Prinze, because he does not change who he is. I mean, even with his own family, like they know who he is. They know he's gonna, he don't want to go to, I don't want to go to these elite colleges and graduate with a six-figure income. I don't want to do
that. That's
his
biggest problem is that he's accepted to all these colleges and that he doesn't know what to choose and that he doesn't want to be his dad.
Where he's got like a full ride or whether or not his parents are rich enough to pay for it all, and
he's literally the king of high school, the most popular, has everything. He's rich. He can go to any school he wants. His future's planned out. And he's just trying to tell Lainey about how sucky his life is. And it's
pretty
cool.
car, everything.
And it's cool because she actually goes, are you kidding? Listen to yourself. You can go to anywhere you want.
Yep.
You have like 10 Ivy League schools that have accepted you. You can do whatever you want. And to the point where he goes, okay, you're right. Okay, I'll let it go. And then nothing's said about it again. It's almost like, he's like, I get it, or maybe he doesn't get it. But, the movie's harped on, he's so, he's got all these problems. He's got to, he doesn't want to follow in his dad's footsteps. And then the movie actually points out, like, this is pretty shallow, problems to have and everything. And so they just kind of let it go after that.
I mean, it's almost kind of like a Cinderella-esque type movie film, where
movie film.
I
like that. We should start calling these movie films. What movie film are we talking about today?
Jeez, all that. But no, it's in this movie film. It's kind of like a Cinderella-esque type film, except for they actually know each other. You know what I mean? But it's kind of like you got the rotten stepsisters and stepmother in the Fringe. You know what I mean? But the fact that they, the recipe for this movie has been used probably quite often in Hollywood alone. You know what I mean? I mean, just
what do you mean by the recipe? Which part are you talking about?
The either the ugly downtrodden guy or girl gets rescued and is a project
makeover movie.
Yeah, a project for the other sex or whatever. But it's been used before, but this movie did it pretty well, I think. I mean, granted, I'm not a big fan of Freddie Prinze acting in this film. I don't think it was good. Just for the simple fact that, like, I've seen him do better, and he seemed a lot more. He just seemed fake.
Yeah, he's
in
like,
this one.
Yeah.
He
the way he talks, and he's kind of got that lisp.
Yeah. Yes.
When he talks, he has that lisp.
But when he does the hacky sack thing, it was
hacky sack.
Yeah, it's like It was so awkward. You know, there's a lot of awkwardness in this.
I guess it was good to like
surrounded around him mainly.
It was a way for him to show he has problems too, let his inner problems out, where she could hear what his problems are, even though later on she's like, your problems are stupid.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I get that. I don't think he was ever the best actor anyways.
No.
You know, he's a good leading man because he's charming, he's good looking and all that kind of stuff. But
it's no Summer Catch, okay, Matt? It's no Summer Catch.
Or Down to You. You know,
hey, I actually like that movie. Okay,
that's the thing. He left Hollywood pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't stay in for past I'd say his mid-20s, early 30s.
Well, and if anybody out there doesn't know that Freddie Prinze's dad's actually Freddie Prinze Jr.'s dad is Freddie Prinze, who actually is a famous comedian back in the 70s, wasn't it? In the 70s, I believe.
Yeah, he died when he was like 22. And I think Freddie Prinze.
He committed suicide, right?
Yeah, I think Freddie Prinze Jr. was like a year old or something, but
yeah,
it's probably a very tragic thing. You know, I haven't gotten into that much. I do know that I've listened to Freddie Prinze. One of my creative writing teachers in high school had us listen to it, and it's very funny comedy, but very tragic what happened to him.
Yeah,
he actually put Muhammad Ali down once.
Oh, really?
They were friends and everything,
yeah.
Freddie Prinze and Muhammad Ali, and they were messing around once. And I think Freddie Prinze had to give him like a left hook or a right cross or something like that. Caught him right in the face and knocked him down onto the couch. And, of course, he's like, oh, my God, let me go get you a towel, So he went and got a towel and everything. He's probably like, please don't kick my ass and everything.
Yeah.
But, it was just kind of a play-around thing. Cleaned him up, and then Freddie Prinze framed that towel with the, like it was some kind of a trophy that had Muhammad Ali's blood.
Come on,
I just punched out the legend, the greatest, and I got his blood on a towel right here. I'm going to frame this and keep it forever. I thought that was a pretty cool story. But, yeah, he had that "Kiss Me" by Sixpence None the Richer.
Kiss me.
I mean, it was reused again in Not Another Teen Movie.
Yeah.
It's used in all these other spoofs or whatever. It was very popular, but as popular as it was, and as popular as this movie was, it only made it to number 2 on the Billboard charts. Now I say only, but you would think something that famous, at least on like opening weekend or the week or two afterwards, it would be like number 1 for a while, but. It only made it up to number 2 on the Billboard charts, but that was such a, oh my gosh, how much did we hear that song in the late 90s, early 2000s?
And it's iconic, and I want to say it's iconic to this movie more so than anything else, really.
Like, what do you call it, retail store workers, I'm sure they hear it, it's like, oh God, this song,
Well, because, I mean, what is it, right when she's coming down the stairs, right? When they play this, or what song are they playing when she comes down the stairs?
Kiss Me.
It was Kiss Me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I hear that song. That's what I think of. Her coming down the stairs, all dolled up. Which
it's the most famous scene of the movie.
And let's be real here, okay? She let her hair down, took her glasses off, put on a minuscule amount of makeup. My wife told me
her
this.
eyebrows,
plucked her unibrow, shaved that ish off.
She had Anna Paquin to help her doll up though too. I'm sure there was other stuff that went along with it.
Put some deodorant on, and then came down the stairs in a dress.
But maybe
that
it's
she
more
didn't
about
even picked out, mind you,
because of the makeup and because of the dress and all that. Maybe it's more about how she carried herself. Because if you look at it when it first pans up and then you see her face and she kind of looks up, she's very unsure. She's like, if you look at the Lainey that was at the beginning of the movie and then you look at the Lainey that's coming down the stairs, you're like, okay, this chick is like, she doesn't want any kind of part of this type of life, but she's doing this to kind of appease her new friend Zach, and because she's probably having feelings for him now, and so she's putting herself out there. So she's very nervous. She doesn't, she was always very nervous about this type of life, anyways, and so. Well, I thought it was good acting of her when she came down the stairs and she kind of looks up and she's very unsure of herself. But obviously, it's Rachel Leigh Cook. And if you see her nowadays, I don't understand it. She's like the equivalent of Keanu Reeves, the female version where she never ages.
Yeah,
she's absolutely gorgeous. And anytime I've ever seen her, she's just like I don't think she ever ages.
Well, and I think it's funny because, I agree with you on that too. But Freddie Prinze kind of doesn't age either. Have you noticed? You know, like you see,
He has a bit. He has a bit. I don't know if you've seen him lately. Like in Psych, not much or anything like that. And in 24, when he came back for 24 for a while, but if you see him now and he's doing his interviews for his cookbook and stuff, he looks a little different. And that's another thing. You know, Freddie. We mentioned last week that there was this movie with him and Julia Stiles where he falls in love with Julia Stiles and he drinks her shampoo because. They were together and she had this certain shampoo that made her hair smell a certain way, and when they broke up he was so obsessed with that smell of her hair and he drank the shampoo, ended up going to the hospital, all this kind of stuff. But he was a chef in that movie and he's actually kind of a chef now and he released it because he does all the cooking at home. He cooks like 5 meals a week or something like that for him and Sharon Michelle Gellar and the kids and stuff. And so he has a cookbook. It's called Back to the Kitchen by Freddie Prinze Jr. and it's kind of like home cooked meals for families and different things like that. But I mean, he's an actual, I guess he followed that character in that movie down to you, and he
but do you think he would sell any copies of this cookbook if he wasn't an actor?
Well, I don't know if he would or not, but I mean, he use that celebrity status, use that juice where you got it, use the clout where you got it. But
that's funny.
So now he's releasing cookbooks and stuff like that now. So but it's not only him that went. Like Paul Walker became really famous after this.
Sure.
Gabrielle Union became really popular after this. And Bring It On and Bad Boys 2 and all these other movies. Usher. There's a couple. Dule Hill did really well with Psych and everything. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Rachel Leigh Cook, though, they kind of went downhill.
Yeah.
Now Rachel Leigh Cook was an Antitrust. And that was, I think that movie was a career killer because Ryan Felipe was in that, Rachel Leigh Cook, and Claire Forlani.
Yeah.
Claire Forlani, Rachel Leigh Cook, and Ryan Felipe were all like big actors at that point.
Yeah.
They'd been on all the teen movies. Ryan Felipe in with Freddie Prinze Jr. in I Know What You Did Last Summer and Cruel Intentions. Claire Forlani was in what was she in Empire Records or was she in Empire Records?
Who? Claire Forlani?
Yeah. I know she was in like Mallrats and a couple others. But, they were all like, teen actors that had, not so much teen, but, like young adult actors who had done well in teen movies and everything.
Yeah, she did Jack Black too, Claire Forlani.
Meet Joe Black.
Meet Joe Black.
Yeah. And so, Jack Black. What was it?
He's a big guy.
Me and my brother were going down a long and winding road. Play the best song in the world, or I'll eat your soul.
He's a very frustrating person to listen to.
He is. But, they were all in that Antitrust movie, and, like, after that, like, none of them did very well. I think Rachel Leigh Cook's been in, like, some Hallmark movies and done... I think she's actually on a Netflix show now. I can't remember what it's called, but... Yeah. But that was always that was interesting. How that movie did seem to do that to all those the three leads of that movie. A scene that I really like was whenever he first comes into that falafel shop where he's like, I'd like to supersize my balls, and she just kind of staring at him. She actually asked to have that falafel hat. They didn't want, they didn't have it, but she's like, "Can I have one of these hats?" So I think it just added to that weirdness of her and everything.
Because she kept pretty much a straight face the entire time, and she was able to focus, where even the customer wasn't able to focus as much. And same thing with Freddie Prinze, but I mean, she was able to keep that whole conversation going, both those conversations going at once.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is that this scene is really good because I think she does really good acting in it because she says I'm not smart. What do you think I'm going to tutor you? And he's like, I have the 4th highest GPA in the school. And she kind of looks over at what's his name from Daredevil?
Froggy.
Froggy from Daredevil. Is that his name?
Yeah, that's what they call him in
Daredevil. Okay.
He was also in the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, yeah. He was in the Mighty Ducks. That's right.
He's a Mighty Duck alum.
Yeah, he was kind of like the tough guy in Mighty Ducks and not so much afterwards. But but she looks over at him and he's like, yeah, he does. He has the fire. And
he was a Smash brother. Remember?
No,
he's one of the Smash Brothers.
Yeah. They get together with that other guy, but anyway, so she, he goes, I have the 4th high GPA. She looks at him and he nods, and she looks back at Freddie Prinze Jr. and she goes, "What is this? Some kind of like a nerd outreach program or something?" The way she delivered that line was so great because she's like, "I don't understand why you're here.
Yeah,
why are you in my life right now?
Yeah,
what has changed? Why my world is out of sorts? What's going on right now?" So. I really like that scene. I liked her acting in that scene. Okay, so I got back on the mic here. This is a couple hours after we recorded, and I have Drew on the phone right now. Hey, man, I figured we should at least probably address real quick the He's All That remake. Have you heard of that?
He's All That?
What?
He's All That?
Yeah, He's All That. It's going to be a remake, but the sexes are going to change, whereas it's going to be a girl that's remaking like a nerdy dude or something like that. So,
that's weird.
Do you think you'll be watching that?
No, probably not.
Why wouldn't you be watching that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It kind of is one of those things where, like, if you're dedicated to the original, the remake, it almost feels like you can't be dedicated to the remake,
Yeah. Well, I think Rachel Leigh Cook is going to have like a cameo in it. It's not as her character, but as somebody else.
Yeah.
Do you know who Addison Rae is?
Yes.
She's like a TikToker or something.
Yeah, I know. My daughter showed me her.
Okay, apparently she's
like the second most popular person on TikTok.
Yeah, I think that either that or the first, but I think she's going to take over the Freddie Prinze Jr. role.
Okay.
And
I don't know how well that acting is.
And then Tanner Buchanan. You know who Tanner Buchanan is?
It sounds familiar.
So he plays Robbie. He plays Robbie on Cobra Kai. He plays Johnny's son.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of got the longish hair and everything. But yeah, he's playing the Rachel Leigh Cook. He's playing the Laney type of character where he's going to be like a nerdy guy who's transformed.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be strange.
Yeah, I didn't know how that's going to be. Like, obviously, I'll give it a chance, and especially if it has Rachel Leigh Cook in it coming back. I give it a chance. I just don't know how that's going to be. I don't know if it's one of these things where they're just changing the sexes for like a political, social type of thing, or if it's a good story. But apparently, the guy who directed Mean Girls, I believe, is going to be directing, and it's written by the same guy who wrote the first She's All That. So it might still be good.
Yeah, well, check it out. I mean, the only thing is that Addison Rae is not an actress. You know what I mean? She's just she's a influencer on TikTok. So it's going to be the definition of whether or not, I mean, I'm not saying that she couldn't act, but
right.
Because who knows? You see some actors out there that probably shouldn't be acting, but they do it anyways, and they still get paid to do
it. Can you give us some examples, Andrew?
Let's see. Who should?
Who do you want to throw under the bus here?
Taylor Swift is definitely one that should not be acting. She can't even act in her music.
We're like, okay, who do we not ever want to ever have on the show?
Let's see. Taylor Swift. That's one for sure.
All right, man. Well, yeah. I just wanted to get your opinion. I knew we were going to get asked it because, it's something that I meant to talk about that we never talked about. I don't really think it's necessary for us to talk about it because I don't know if either of us will have much interest, but it's something interesting about She's All That. We'll have to watch it, and He's All That. I don't know if that's going to come out later this year, but apparently they're shooting it. They got cast photos and all that kind of stuff, so we'll just have to see how it goes.
Oh, wow.
Okay. But yeah, okay, cool, man. Well, yeah, I just thought we'd get that, at least get that laid down, and then, give people our thoughts and our opinions on the new remake that's coming up. So we kind of tie up all our loose threads here of conversation. So,
all right, broski.
So was this as enjoyable as it was when you first watched it?
Yeah,
I mean, back in the day, you said it was your favorite.
Yeah,
was it just as enjoyable?
It was. It just wasn't as outstanding back then it is now. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you grow up and you end up getting married, having kids of your own kind of situation. It's like, that was that high school drama, that you kind of leave behind. But at the same time, it still hit the right nerves and everything on
hit you right in the feels.
Yeah, in the feels. And But the ending, I'm sorry, the ending just didn't make a whole lot of sense the way they set that up. It was like,
What, when he had to graduate naked?
no, like they're dancing by the pool, and it's like he just showed up.
Yeah,
He just
it
showed up,
kinda-
and everything went out the window.
So obviously there was some kind of a date rape element that they kind of just skipped over.
gosh.
Apparently Paul Walker's character tried to, and you could say, well, maybe he didn't do anything. Maybe he was just going to, and then she just sprayed him and left because she thought that's what was going to happen. But I mean, this guy, he had a hotel room. He had all this kind of stuff.
We hear
planned.
him on screen and see him on screen stating that this is where he's heading.
Right. So you got to imagine there that he probably tried to come on to her, but the movie kind of just skips right over that, and she's just like, oh, I figured it out just a little too late. I don't know what that means. I figured it out just a little too late, but then she said that she pepper sprayed him. Or no, she sprayed the horn. That's right.
Yeah.
And because then at graduation, she's like, they're calling your name. He's like, what? That was pretty funny. But no, that was kind of weird because then he showed up at her house. I don't know how he knew she was going to be there.
Everybody's okay with it,
or why he didn't try to find her at the hotel or whatever it was. I don't know. It's just he just happened to be in her living room, and then she was finally okay with it.
Yeah,
like
with the bet.
She was mad at him.
Anything anymore?
And he hadn't really said anything to her about it. He tried to, but she didn't want to have anything to do. And then suddenly she was okay with it. Because, you could tell whenever her dad, before she went to the dance, he's like, that's funny because there's a guy dressed up waiting for you. You can tell she's hoping that it's him.
Yeah.
And that maybe he's come back.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier, is that I actually kind of was like, well, I wonder if it's Freddie Prinze. But then I also had to look at, let's see, how much time is left in the movie. Maybe not.
But then you're just like, well, then she's probably already forgiven him if she's hoping that it's him. You can tell that she's hoping for that it's him.
Okay.
So it kind of almost takes that tension out because you're like, oh, is she still going to? Well, she obviously does because she was hoping that it was him picking her up.
Right.
But I mean, all in all, I think obviously it's not a movie that would work with teens nowadays. Back then, this is the type of stuff that teens and especially teenage girls just would lap up.
Oh yeah.
They love this stuff, even though Freddie Prinze Jr. was the way he was, or I should say Zach was the way he was, and I don't think he made any kind of likable changes throughout the movie. he became a little bit nicer, I guess, and with her, but he didn't learn any lessons that's gonna make him change. The only lesson he learned is that there's somebody underneath this person, but that was only with that one person in that one situation. He didn't learn any kind of lessons about what a good life he has, which is what they kind of set it up for.
Yeah.
So I guess I think they were missing out on that, but if you just want to kind of unplug and watch a fun teen movie about a girl and a guy falling in love, however the circumstances,
And if you're our age, you know this movie very well, I'm sure. And most people know this movie and have seen this movie, but it's always good to rewatch it. Just like all these teen movies, it's around that time where, some of us, not me, of course, but have high schoolers, and I don't have high schools yet. You happen to have a high schooler, but it's kind of one of those things where you want them to see that movie because you're like, this is my high school when I was in school. This was the time period I was in high school. And so that was kind of good to show my kids now on some of these movies, because some of them they can't watch. But some of these movies, I tell them, I say, look, this is how it was in my school. It really was, except for nobody played lacrosse.
Well, they didn't in this one. What was lacrosse in? Which movie was lacrosse in?
It was in another Freddie Prinze movie, or maybe it was. Yeah, it wasn't a Freddie Prinze movie.
I've seen someone. I think lacrosse was more in the early 2000s into the mid 2000s. That's when it started really becoming in movies. The late 90s is a lot of soccer. Because I think 10 Things I Hate About You, they were playing soccer out on that field too, right?
Yeah. Yes. Because
so,
he was standing at the field.
Maybe it's just a California thing or whatever. But I don't know. Give this film a watch. It's really good. We enjoy it. We enjoyed it, I think, as much as we did back then.
Yeah.
We probably enjoyed it a little bit more. Or I didn't really like a lot of these teen movies when I was younger, even though they clicked with me a lot.
I did.
I don't know. I liked them, but I didn't really get into them as much as anybody else does. But it's good for the nostalgia nowadays. So if you're our age, which I'm sure you could guess how old we are and everything, but give this a watch. It's fun, nostalgia to go back to. And if you haven't seen this, younger or older, give it a watch. You might get something out of it. If not, it's got some funny situations here and there. Yeah. So. Anyways, if you guys want to get a hold of us, our social media, we're at the Post Credit Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. We're at the Post Credit on Twitter. We have a website, thepostcreditpodcast.com, and we also, our email address is thepostcreditpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on YouTube, so check us out there. Send us some messages. Tell us, what 90s movies you like, what 90s teen movies you like. Tell us if we got anything wrong on this episode. Tell us if we didn't mention anything about the behind the scenes or whatever it may be. Let us know what your guys' favorite 90s teen movies are, or 90s movies, if we're going through the theme of season 2. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.
And throw.